Here's how to network well in the moment.
Network like you're job hunting.
How do you define purpose?
That is the secret to making sure that you could walk into a room and let anyone know. No conversation will die on your hands.
So if you are a doer, if you are someone that is in a practice, a consultant, a lawyer, a doctor, accountant, and your role may be now shifting into business development and sales and curating leads and bringing in business, and you're kind of not embracing it, maybe, you might need to go awkward. I am here with Sean Hand, the awkward networker.
You might need the awkward networker.
You might need the awkward networker. So why the awkward networker?
Came about a long time ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago now, which is crazy. And it was really just born out of the fact that I was always out networking. I was at 5 different networking events a week. At the time I was in KPMG, I was in consulting, I was a tax consultant. I had no real need to. It's not like I was bringing in business while I was out there. I was young, mid-20s, but I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed making this big city of Philadelphia seem smaller for me. I enjoyed going out and being a part of the network. And as I was doing it, I was constantly finding myself in awkward situations. I mean, I would come home and regale my wife. Like, we would sit around like the proverbial fireplace, and I would regale her with stories of all the awkward situations I found myself in. And I just started to have my little black book, and I took little notes of what I would have done differently. And if I bored the crap out of that person, maybe I could try this. And then I started mentoring younger professionals still while I was at KPMG. And they were like, you have to write a book. That was the big one. They're like, write the book, write it. And so I'm like, totally. And so I'll never forget, I was on my bed. Everyone probably had this moment. You open up your computer. I have Word open, the cursor's blinking. And I'm like, let her rip. Let's go. There's a book up there. Let it rip. There's gold. Let it go. And then I just closed my laptop. I'm like, it's not going to happen. And then after a few months, I kept on this idea. I want to share it. And then my wife had the idea. She was like, why don't you like make a blog? And I was like, a blog? Like, I'm a Northeast Philly guy. Like, I don't know if blog was ever in my 5-year plan, but I did. And I started putting out these articles, just little piecemeal things. And I waited for the trolls to come and tell me, I'm a loser and stop writing.
Sure, they're out there.
I believe they are. But I'm one of the fortunate ones that they just didn't target me.
They embraced you.
Yeah, people seem to really enjoy it. And then that created Awkward Networker, again, a name that my wife came up with.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out
to my wife. Yep. She came up with the awkward. You should have seen what's on the editor's floor for names. I mean, it was like, because
you got to bring
come up with a name.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll see if I can find it. But it was like networking in motion, or like applied motivation. It was just
just things that sound like a book title, by the way.
Exactly. It's not reliable. It was probably, this is before ChatGPT. It was probably just a ChatGPT readout of like what it could be. And then my wife came in, and it was like one of those moments where you're staring at a puzzle for so long, and then someone comes in that wasn't and goes, there's the piece.
That's it.
She was like, aren't you always saying that networking is inherently awkward, and all you're trying to do is just like limit the amount of awkwardness and try to make it more successful? And just left the room, and that was Awkward Networker.
So I want to challenge you for a second, though, because from your origin story, right? You're talking about somebody who likes going to networking events, right? Mm-hmm. You were enjoying it. You were going out, and so if I'm somebody, we open this episode going, this is for people that don't want to do that, right?
Right.
So how do you sort of connect with and relate to that inherent person that doesn't want to go and embrace this process?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think a lot of times people don't want to network, and there's a reason that they don't want to, and they're all valid, because it is, like I said, it's inherently awkward. It took me a long time to really learn and feel comfortable in my own skin going out and walking into a room where I don't know anybody, putting on that name tag that immediately falls off, and forgetting how to present myself. And so for the people that don't really like to do that, that's usually a reason why they don't like to do it. And it's because they're not comfortable doing it. And I think when someone says that, they automatically go to the introvert side of the spectrum.
Right.
And I think extroverts as well, they treat networking events like just a night at the bar, which is fine too, but then
it's not strategic.
It's not strategic. So what are we doing? Like, because otherwise we just go home and watch Netflix. Like, why am I here right now?
Right.
And so whether someone's on the introvert or extrovert spectrum, I encourage all of them to come a little bit more towards the middle. I can get into some of the nuanced ways to do that. But back to your original question, why? There's usually a triggering point. This is what I see a lot of. And they go, oh, I have to start getting out and meeting new people because in their performance review, they were told they need to expand their network or add more connections to the pipe and to the CRM or something.
Right.
Or they're looking for a new job, right? There's I just moved to a new city.
Yeah.
And so they always have these triggering points. And then they're like, I have to go out and network. And then they do, and with a range of success. And then they just stop. They get comfortable. They get complacent. They get busy, which is all natural. And then there's another triggering event. I'm like, oh, I have to go out and network again. And it's like, yeah, if you want to do it that way, you can, but it's rough. It's really rough because now you're dusting off dormant relationships from 5 years ago. Like, hey, how's everything been since COVID? You good? Okay, yeah. Hey, by the way, I saw there's a job opening. Like, then it's not organic. It doesn't feel real. And so I encourage people to, I always say network like you're job hunting. I mean, if you are job hunting, for those of you that have been out there job hunting, you can attest, you start dusting off every dormant relationship you made in the last 10 years.
Right.
So if you have that mentality, and that's what I encourage really the younger folks to do as well, is like network like you're job hunting and just consistently dust off those dormant relationships, build new ones, use one relationship to get an introduction to another one. And then why? To answer that, I don't know. I mean, sometimes it's for your own business success down the road. That's the prevailing notion. But I did a survey on this. The Harvard Business Review had a 5 top reasons to network. And I forget what they were, but they were the basic ones. Get a new job, build a mentorship, etc.
Sure.
So I pulled my own network and I asked them, I said, what was the last thing that you asked of your network? And I'll show you the results. I'll forward it to you, but it was crazy. I mean, some of them were like wedding dress recommendation. One was unofficial legal advice was my favorite one. It was from a friend of mine. I was like, you all right? I was like, that came out of a holster. Like, you
should DM me that. You should DM that.
What was the second to the last thing you asked for, right? Like, come on, man.
Don't have to be that honest.
Yeah, but my point there was like when I saw all of it, some of it did match the Harvard Business Review 5 reasons, but a lot of it was just other stuff, like trying to get an interview for my brother, right? Like, so there's 1,000 reasons why we network and what your network can do for you. And if you're only networking when you have an ask, I mean, forget about it. People will see through that right away.
So it sounds like you're talking about really relationship building. And so in your coaching practice, and I want to talk about that in a second, because we have this two hands. Two hands. Hey, 2 hands. Hey,
see, that's why you're the brand guy.
Write that down. We've got awkward networker and selling by hand, right? And it sounds like what you're talking about is relationship building, which doesn't happen from, dusting off the business card and going every 5 years, right? It's a recurring thing. So when you coach folks, are you just focused on, here's how to network well in the moment? Like the second we were talking, I kept thinking of that visual of the wall of 3 to 5 people who are in a conversation, and you're in that like on deck circle, like you're waiting there, like you're about to go up to bat. And it's like, if you get too close, you've committed, but you're not actually in the group yet. And now it's really awkward. And if you stay in that circle, everyone's like, you just feel like everyone's looking at you. And like, why is that guy just standing there? He's talking to no one. So it's like, how much time, when do you get in? And it feels like double dutch, like the ropes are going and you're like, I'm gonna jump in now. I tripped. And so is it just about how you do that in the moment, or is it also what happens after the networking event? How does that coaching go?
Yeah, it actually starts even before that. I mean, I talk about that specific example in my book and in my trainings, but it starts even before that because I think there's a preparation plan that most people don't do. And I'll tell you my preparation plan now. But my preparation plan is audience, purpose, and questions. Basically, what I mean there is I'm going to an event. Let's say you invite me to something a few weeks from now.
Okay.
First thing I'm going to do is ask you, I want to be smart on the audience. So I'm going to say, hey, is there a registration list? Or can you give me an idea of like who's going to be there, right? And you might be like, I don't know, you're just my +1, man. There's going to be 100 people here. I'll see if the event organizer can send me the registration list. I always want the registration list. Am I going to spend 4 hours going on everyone's LinkedIn? No. But what I'll immediately want to do is see if I know anyone else that's going to be there. Because as soon as I do that, I'm going to reach out to that person and say, hey, let's grab a cup of coffee beforehand or let's grab a drink afterward. I want to stack as many business development, relationship development activities as I can because I have 3 kids now too. I'm like, I can't be out all the time. So if I'm committing, like I have one next Thursday, I have 6 other relationship development coffees, little drink here, something else. I have them all stacked because I'm going out for that 2-hour event in the city. I want to make sure I can stack all those things. And the only way I can do that is to know who's going to be there, peel them off one at a time. And then secondly, if you can meet up with somebody beforehand and go into an event together, I mean, it's, the confidence. It's like that scene from Step Brothers when they're doing the interview and they're in the tuxes, smacking stuff off the table.
I think I can solve this Pam situation.
I think it's not this Pam situation. Exactly. And so that was like the first thing. And then also I want to look at individuals. I want to send it around to my organization, like anyone, like back when I was in my KPMG days. I've been out of KPMG a couple of years now doing my own thing. But back when I was at KPMG, or for anyone listening, I take that registration list. I'll send it to the partners that I work with, the leaders.
Oh, fascinating.
It gives you a little bit of street cred. You get a little brand uptick, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, let's see what John's doing. He's out there doing this. But I really want them to tell me if they know anyone that's there.
Right.
And if they do, here's my ask. Can you send them a note and just let them know I'm going to be there as well? I don't want an introduction because now there's relationship capital on the line. If you say, oh, sure, and you do an email introduction, well, now I have to follow up with that person, whether it's at that event or now there's like a whole thread on the line. But if you just email somebody and say, hey, one of my colleagues, Sean's going to be at that event next Thursday, look out for him. That's it. If we see each other, cool. If not, no big deal.
Got it.
But I want to set up these like warm pockets of introduction that are at the event itself. So when I see you, be like, oh, Sean Hand, right? Yeah. My one of my friends over at
told me
to
you
look
might
out
be
for
here. Right.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just a little warm. But I might have 5 or 6 of these at an event with 100 people. It makes my odds a lot better. And then lastly, I want to, if I see that there's people that I don't know on the registration list, but they work for organizations that I have some relationship, I'm going to send it to them and say, hey, do you know this person? They're going to be at this event. Yeah, I do. Can you just let them know I'm going to be there as well? Same thing. I don't want introductions. So that's audience. I'll go a little bit quicker here, but then the purpose is like, why am I going? Usually it's because I said yes like 2 months ago and immediately regret it.
Sure.
But I need to be more deliberate with my purpose. I've learned that early on. If you're just showing up and you're like, oh, maybe get a couple of cards that become rectangular coffee coasters on my desk.
Fill up your pocket.
Yeah, for no reason. By the time I call them 6 months from now, they probably aren't there anymore. Like, no, I want to be a little bit more deliberate with my purpose, even if it's contrived, even if it's something that I had to create just to make this more impactful.
Sure. How do you, so what's a purpose? Like I have a network event coming up, I think next week. It's, Philly Business Connect. We're going to, it's really, I've been to a couple other events. It's pretty random, the swath of people that are there. Like the run, there's always mortgage people. Always, I feel. And there's no offense to mortgage people. It's just
there's always certain industries.
There was just every industry is represented, right? And some in marketing and some that connect. And a lot of times I actually will walk out of an event and I'm surprised by which connection I made that, we do video production. I can talk to anybody that might need a brand film, want to do a video podcast like this, something like that. And I'm sometimes surprised by who I come across. And how do you define purpose? Does that narrow you too much, or what does it look like?
No, it doesn't narrow you too much. Now, you could get really niche with it and be like, oh, I have a friend who's looking to refinance, and you can get that specific. Now, now like you're in the mortgage crew.
I'm good.
Yeah, and they're all gonna be like, oh, talk to me, take my card.
Everyone's buying them drinks.
Yeah, right. I mean, so you could get that specific if you want, but no, I mean, something in general that would be interesting to the people in the room, because you never really know what could come from it. So it doesn't have to be limiting in that sense. But
so your purpose isn't you, and like it's necessarily
seldom me. It's seldom me. I mean, if it's a room full of buyers, yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive and have my pitch ready, and I'm going to get a little bit more on the, hey, here's what I do. Yeah. Because man, what a great opportunity to spread the word.
Sure.
You seldom find yourself in those situations. It's usually mixed bag. You don't really know what you're getting. And so a purpose might be something like, again, off the top of my head, I'm thinking about a close friend of mine from LaSalle University that recently got laid off. There's a lot of people that got laid off. I'll just shop him around a little bit, see if anybody's hiring. And because otherwise, why am I here? I don't know, to sell myself.
It's too on the nose.
Transparent. Right. Everyone will see I'm a salesperson.
Right.
Cloaked as a, event attendee.
Sure.
And then now what am I really doing? I'm just trying to build like a CRM, not relationships. And so again, that's off the top of my head, but
Sure.
depending on what's there, I want to try to see if I can hook somebody up. Knowing that you have the podcast and you have this great, you're going to be top of mind for me for the next couple of months, and see if I can hook you up with a couple of connections. But that's it. And then
mission accomplished.
Yeah, and then all right, we can wrap it. We got it. We got it.
He's Sarah, you got that.
A verbal contract is.
That's. I have an attorney that comes on his own podcast, and I'm going to have that verified. That this is.
So there you go. You can do that, but that would be like that's what I mean. Just thinking through like what's going to get me in the door, because otherwise, yeah, it's so hard to kind of get in and out of those conversations. And then, from a conversation standpoint, really quick, one, I want to create 2 stock questions that are open-ended enough to stimulate conversation, but specific enough to be interesting to the people in the room. And that's going to help me in those situations where we're having a good conversation, we're laughing, we're having fun.
Oh, he's still good with the awkward laugh. It's so good.
I told you I was going to do it.
It's so good.
And then you're having a good time. And then both of your minds go blank at the same time.
Right.
And you're looking around and you're like,
cool.
So... think the ice is going to melt? I mean, I don't know. I heard there's another cold front coming through. And
it's a cyclone bomb.
It's
a cyclone bomb.
Oh, it's brutal. And the silence just takes you deeper and deeper. I'll unleash one of my 2 stock questions. Boom. I want to resuscitate any flatline conversation, bring it back to life.
Yep.
And for those of you listening who are more on the introverted side of the spectrum, that's a huge preparation point I think you shouldn't overlook, because that is the secret to making sure that you could walk into a room and let anyone know that no conversation will die on your hands. You'll be there to bring it back to life. And it sends signals to everybody that you're the most confident networker in the room.
Yeah.
Even if that's not how you feel on the inside, who cares? The fact that you can enter a conversation knowing it won't die on your hands. And there's a bunch of other stuff that we can get into. But yeah, I think that was...
We talk about that in marketing too, right? You market to who you want people to see you as, not necessarily even where you are right now, right? So obviously you don't want to, be disingenuous about the actual services you offer, but like, a lot of people are like, well, our brand isn't quite that big yet, or we're not, we're growing in that way. It's like, yeah, market that, because you're showing people that that's where you're going and that's what you do, right?
Exactly.
So I think that it kind of translates to what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I want to ask, you mentioned something earlier about, in those situations where it is your target audience specifically, and it's like, okay, for you, these are the decision makers in the room that are going to decide whether I eat tomorrow and like how much awkward network training I'm going to be doing and selling by hand. I can provide to their companies. How do you, you said like, I might go a little harder in the paint in those moments and like really pitch it. I find that there's situations where, and I don't know if anybody else listening to this does, where like, you almost find like you're pitching too much, right? Like you literally doing that, like B&I, like 30-second, elevator speech in the middle of a conversation, and it feels awkward and it feels self-serving, and it does, right? And it doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. But you also don't want to miss the opportunity to say that right thing that's going to hopefully get. How do you gauge that? What are some things you do if maybe like I'll give one thing that I do and maybe you can course correct it or pat me in the back? Like I'll do that thing that stand-ups do, where like they do a joke that seems like it's bombing and then they'll make fun of the joke, right? So like if I'm about to sell somebody or I'm about to name drop a bunch of companies that we work with, I will say, this is the part where I name drop a bunch of businesses that we work with so that you trust me. And then I'll do it. And it usually lightens the mood a little bit. But what are some things that you recommend doing in those situations?
I like that. It brings the guard down, lets everybody know like, hey, by the way, I kind of have to do this.
Right.
Like this is nothing. Yeah, nothing.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, nothing wrong. I would say that I come back to the fact that when you're, let's call it pitching, the pitch is sort of like the last thing that we're worried about. What I'm worried about right now is piquing your interest. And so to do that, I have to ask questions. So I always tell people, and I work on pitches and I help people with all that stuff. But for me, the gold is in finding out more about what you need and then figuring out how I can help you. And there's a visual, I didn't come up with this, I read this in a book. God, I wish I could quote it. I'm so sorry. It was a long ago book.
It's going to be quoted anonymous.
It's an anonymous, but it was a good visual. And I use this every time I talk to people. I say, right now, you're in control of the conversation because I'm answering your question. That's why you host the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. So the visual is having a spotlight over you and the other person. Whoever's speaking is in the spotlight. And whoever is not in the spotlight is actually in control of the conversation because when you're speaking, the spotlight is on you, and all I'm thinking about is absorbing the information and asking another question to get the spotlight back off me, back on you.
Yeah.
So whoever actually is in the spotlight, and this is where we get a little tripped up because we sometimes talk too much when we feel a little uncomfortable, awkward. And it's a reminder to say, no, whoever's talking and in the spotlight is not in control of the conversation. Right now, you're not talking. And so you can now ask another question that's going to put me on a conversation path that you wanted me to be on.
I love it.
And so it's the power of not being in the spotlight. So I've, as an extrovert, and I'm talking to all the extroverts, this is something we need to really get better at. And I'm doing a lot better. But I still have work to do. Shut up, put it back on them, ask them another question. They just said something that could be a triggering question, that could hire your services. And now here I am talking about myself. No, follow up with that question, find out more. And then, of course, now I'm talking too much. The last thing I'll say is
we are more similar than you know.
A/B testing all of this too, because I think a lot of times people think, oh, here's my elevator pitch and then whatever. But I A/B test all my pitches just to see if a certain audience, if they get a little eyebrow raise versus others that kind of slunk down a little bit.
Yeah,
I want to figure out how come it worked over here and not there. And that's where me, the extrovert public speaker, got. People probably don't know about that, but I'm a weirdo about. I write everything. I'm like, why didn't that work? That it worked 3 times prior, but with this guy it didn't work. Like, is it him? Is it me? Is his industry? What's different? And so I'm a big believer in just A/B testing everything. And I would say the pitch that I ultimately came up with that works probably the highest percentage of the time is after asking some questions and learning a little bit more about their business and sort of their growth strategy and what their role is within the growth strategy. I'll say something like, okay, so what do you do? And I'll say, I kind of help organizations like yours, actually. I help their leaders answer the biggest question that they all have right now, which is, can the next generation of my doers become seller doers and help me grow the business the way that I need them to grow the business? And depending on who I'm speaking with, they tend to maybe sit up a little bit. What does that mean? Like, how do you do that? Because we have our own training programs, and now we're talking. Yeah,
right. I think I find that I run into the exact same thing that you said in my my out is just to make fun of it, right? Like, I'm about to talk too long. I'm already talking too long, whatever those things are, and call it out. But there's a certain point where, like, you can only use that so many times, and you do need to improve those areas. And I find that at the same thing, like, I'll want to listen very much. And, I look at everything through the lens of video in some way, both strategically, entrepreneurially, and creatively, right? So if I'm talking to you for 5 minutes about like an issue you're having, and we talked off camera about the 2 amazing brands that you have between Awkward Networker and Selling by Hand, and like how they provide different services and different value in different ways, and not all parties, you have a lot of people that want the Awkward Networker and some that want the Selling Hand, and it's like, right, and how do we pick and choose between the 2? And I think that one of the things that I find that I'll do is like the word vomit, where like I've connected all the dots. I've asked you all the questions. I've shut up and listened. And now, like, I feel like I've seen this before. I've fixed this puzzle before. I've worked with this client and this client. And then I immediately like, well, I worked with this client. When that turns to me, what do you do? And it's like, here's what we do, but here's what we specifically did for someone for you. And I find that can be valuable, but I also will find kind of like maybe right now people start to like, okay, it's going too long. It's going too long. It's going too long. Do you have any like tips on, when to cut it off, or is there an arbitrary, like, have a 30-second timer on your watch?
I would say you really want to see how it's landing. And so part of that A/B testing I've talked about is it's sort of an if-then kind of thing. Like, if they raise their eyebrows, what's the next thing I'm saying or asking of them? Like, all right, because you're not going to sell, like,
sure.
Oh, we were at a Sixers game. A friend invited both of us. Did I bring an engagement letter with me? No, right? Like, so this is just to secure whatever that follow-up is. And again, I sound like a broken record with the preparation, but I'm a big believer in that. So like, I already wanted in my mind, I already was like, all right, what's the next thing that I just want you to verbally agree to before we can part ways, and hopefully Embiid dunks and we all cheer and kind of takes away the business conversation. As what is that next thing? So maybe it might be, all right, let's talk about it. Here's your card. I'm going to connect with you on LinkedIn. I am desperately trying to find a way that I could help you, separate from how I can separate from the business,
right?
So I'll follow up with you, because if your son is looking at that school, a friend of mine It's like on the alumni board there. You could probably get them, help
Right.
them out. Want to see if I can help you out in any way so that I could say, and also while after I do that for you, I'll connect you with them. Connect me with your head of business development, because if she's doing all this training, like that might be the person that I should talk to. Oh,
Sure.
yeah, I could do that. So if I get that, I'm good. To your question on when to stop talking, someone taught me this, Trisha McQuay. There you go. I can actually call somebody out.
Sure.
She's been a great mentor of mine. In the entrepreneurial world, it's funny how it's just a lone wolf business. But if you go out there, it's actually, people are really cool. And she's one of these people that has just been a great mentor of mine. She taught me this, and I think it might help in your situation. There is, she said, we have 3 hats that we wear. You're the coach, the consultant, or the mentor in any types of these conversations. Now, what you were just mentioning there was the consultant. You're like, oh, here's the problem you have. Here's how I fixed it. Right. And here's how you can fix it. That's a consultant. I'm fixing your problem.
Yep.
Sometimes that's what they're looking for. But if it's not, and they start to now maybe they're looking for a coach. A coach is someone who's going to help you uncover and solve the problem on your own by asking the right questions, sort of making you go into that direction.
Guiding you to be the best player you can be.
Here's what I saw with some of my other clients. I noticed that they are, and you pose a problem. Is that a problem that you've had before? Yeah. But we just can't seem to figure it out. Oh, when you tried this, what happened there? And so I want you to come to the conclusion on your own. That's a coach. And then finally is the mentor. The mentor is just someone who's like, yeah, I've been there. Yeah. It happened to me like 2 years ago. I mean, it sucks, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, people say they're going to hire you, then 2 years later, they're still
They're
not
not.
hiring. It happens. So I try to, if I see that they're glazing over, I want to maybe say, I'm doing too much consulting here. Let me move over and be a coach and see if they can uncover this problem for themselves.
I'm hearing a lot in the mentor, empathy and validation, as compared to in the coach, it sounds more like storytelling and recommendations. I'm trying to break this down in sort of the key terms that we use to build stories, right? And do you think about those things and those kind of like, do you ever get into that sort of, I don't know if terminology is the right word, but like thought processes around like the messaging behind the message, right? If you're at mentor level, like I immediately jumped for me when you said like there was relatability, validation, empathy, or like I'm connecting with you almost as a peer that I understand you, which builds that trust. Are there those elements like, or is there one that jumps out at you when I say something like that? Or are you like, what the hell is he talking about right now? Let's move on.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm with you. I think it is one of the things that I really try to focus on. That's honestly where awkward networking came from. And not only is it disarming, but it's like everyone gets it. You don't need to ask more questions because it's just immediately, we all have been doing, like we know. It's like, oh yeah, why is it? You're right, it is awkward. The selling by hand, it's not as clear. I mean, it's like, all right, I come in and I help the doers become seller doers and just move the needle a little bit on their relationship development side.
Sure.
But selling by hand, I have to sell a little bit more to be ironic there and say like, that methodology is all about revenue follows relationships. I want to help your people get out into the market. And while they're on a client site, ask a few more questions to uncover opportunities, cross-sell, like that's all that. And then the awkward networker, people are like to your point, it's just immediately applicable and immediately disarming. They're like, yeah, I've been there before.
Right.
So what do you do? I network a lot. So I kind of help people become a little bit less awkward when they're networking. Oh, all right, cool. Come out and come speak to our
team. Yeah. Let's dive into that a little bit more deep. This will be your opportunity for your elevator pitch and we're going to time it and see if it took too long. But give me like awkward networker. Who's your target audience? Who are people like, if they're listening right now, hey, this guy's smart. I love the things he's saying. I'm not sure which approach makes the most sense. They've referenced selling hand and awkward networking. Now let's hit it really succinctly here. Awkward networker is really does what and who's it for?
Awkward networker focuses on what I believe to be the first of 3 pillars of a full relationship development continuum, which is stranger to friend. That's it. I want to turn strangers into friends. And however that manifests itself within your organization, your team, whatever, I want to turn strangers into friends. I need my people to go out and turn strangers into friends. That's where I come in and I help consult in that. Here's how to get out. Here's how to network. That's really under the awkward networker umbrella because that's where all the content lives.
Yep. And functionally, that looks like public speaking engagements, which you do, and
some training and some ongoing training. I would say like 3 to 4 month training is really the max there, and then we should be good.
Yeah.
And I love having some applicability there as well. I was just emailing somebody when I was walking in here from one of my clients who's joining an ACG event, doesn't know anybody. And I was like, all right, I'll be there as well. I have some friends there. I'll introduce you beforehand so that we can live
Yeah, stressful.
live
Yeah,
example, right?
yeah.
Like this will be fun. And also I'm watching to see if you were paying attention yet. So that's that first pillar. And I would say that's where Awkward Networker lives. It's a lot of public speaking because of the name. It's more sort of fun to come in, but also some training. And then the last two pillars is friend to client. And that's where selling by hand sort of takes over, because you have people and they're like, all right, I have 1,000 friends and no clients. And it's like, I'm the most popular person in the unemployment line, or like,
Right.
so what do I do with all of these friends now? I've moved up in an organization and now I have to kind of like bring in business or something. And so I teach them, all right, instead of just having all these friends, how do we transform this network into dollars and cents?
Yep.
Feed the pipeline. And then the third pillar is client to portfolio. And that's where we get into, like, I would say, more advanced selling tactics on how to take $1 million client and turn into a $5 million client, and how to upsell and do that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's the break.
And that's all within does that start to bring us into selling by hand yet?
Selling by hand is the second and third pillar. Got it. Friend to client and client to portfolio. Awkward networker, stranger to friend.
Getting that, yeah.
Did that sound like I know what I'm talking about? That's where I'm at now. And that's the thing that I've talked to you about before. It's just funny having two brands that are both so close to my heart.
Yeah.
That caters to such different audiences. So that's how I've made sense of all of it right now.
It's really great. I mean, I think that, in the way that one feeds the other, and I love the way you describe that. And also there's I think to your point, like even the word selling and selling by hand, right? There's that, okay, we've got a different mentality, right? In phases 2 and 3. And Awkward Networker is light. It's approachable. What I really like about something that I learned today in this conversation is that for you, networking doesn't start when you walk into the event and pick up that name tag, right? It starts before that, and it doesn't end when, you settle up your tab, right? It ends after, with best practices afterwards. And I think, that to me was a takeaway, and something I hadn't considered, even some of the prep stuff that you talked about and looking through the list ahead of time and even asking for that, right? I think I imagine that's a great takeaway for a lot of people. Is there one sort of like, if there was one thing you learned today from the, I'm doing a capital THE on this, period, Awkward Networker, what would that be?
I would say one of my easier tips to implement, and that's what I want to focus on. I would say my what's new is one that when I tell people, they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, if I walked up to you and said, hey, what's going on? How are you? How are you going to respond? And typically they're like, oh, good. You? And you're like, good. And it's like, good.
Good.
Good. And it's just this cold open every single time.
Sure.
Whether you're on a Teams meeting and waiting for the person who had the meeting to jump on, you're like, hey, so John should be with us in a minute. And it's like, oh, it's at a fern behind you. It's just like, oh, it's brutal.
A minute, hey.
So what I tell people is create your what's new, and it's curated. It's the way you want it to be. And this is how I enter every single conversation that I get into, to start it, to sort of disarm the people that I'm with and open it up. And so I'll jump on a conversation and be like, hey, what's going on? How are you? Oh, good, man. I'm good. I'm actually a little pumped for this weekend. My son just got into a new baseball tournament, and finally he's on a tournament team, and
nice.
I'm out of daddy ball, and now he's actually being trained by like legit people. So it's just, I'm excited to like watch him continue to do it. Oh, how long has he been doing that? Where is he depending on where?
You've just opened up a whole doorway to conversation.
And then the embarrassing part about this is, I'd be honest with you, then I'll leave. I'll go into another room, and that's my what's new over there too.
Right.
I've curated it for the next several days.
But that's what's new for you, right? It's still true. It's authentic. And
I want to be the first to open it up so that I don't have these cold opens every single time.
It's funny you say that. So this will be an excuse for me to drop this into the podcast, and so I'm so excited about it. So my what's new this week was, I was in Telluride last week with a couple buddies. I've just made it a priority to like at least go out west. I'd never been out west until last year for snowboarding. It's something I really love doing and I rediscovered. And my what's new was that we did a hike to trail, which I'd never done before. You literally get off the lift and you hike up the mountain, and then you come down the mountain. It's like picking, I pick things up, I put them down. But this time you like walk for a while and then come down. And it was like a bucket list experience I didn't even know I had, but I did it not, knowing I was doing a what's new. It was just,
Mhm.
I was really genuinely excited
Yeah.
about it. Shared that in our first meetings. Today's a Tuesday. So it was Monday meetings with clients. And it was just a great conversation. Like, oh, I didn't know you did that.
Mhm.
And it's like, and wherever it goes, right? If I'm like, oh, do you ski? It's like, absolutely not. I hate the cold. Cool. Well, where
Yeah.
do you like to go? For the people that do, like, we can get into like saying words like shredding and gnarly and like you sound really
Fresh pow pow.
fresh pow pow. No friends on a powder day. That's what I learned that's what I learned this week too. No friends on a powder day. But it's interesting that you say that, and I think that so that's really cool. The what's new. Yeah.
And just real quick on that, because and that's perfect because you're coming right back from a vacation. 3 weeks from now, this is what I encourage.
Don't keep
Then what's the what?
right.
Right? Because you can't. Oh, 3 weeks ago I was at Telluride and did the whole thing. Right. So then what's new? And I think some people, they have to like just take a second and be like, your life isn't that boring. Like you have
Right.
thoughts, you have things that are top of mind, a new book, whatever it is. Make it, and have it as your what's new for the next several days, because it's just wherever you are. And again, I'm talking now to more the introverts. Like you don't need to be this off the wall zany personality in order to be successful in relationship development. It's these little nuanced things that you could do right now, just when you're not around people, and have that in your holster. And that's how you open conversations with your what's new. I mean, it's these little things.
It's great. You said it really comes down to building relationship, right? And one of the things that when you mentioned the introvert sort of mentality of like, you don't have to be this other thing. You can be authentically you with, giving yourself a leg up in terms of some of the tools and getting through some of those barriers, which we all need, right? Like I would consider myself pretty extroverted, but I can benefit from a what's new, right? It doesn't change that modality. It's not, it is a one size fits all sort of thing. I think that part of that I think about in terms of, and this actually was something someone recommended to me. We started doing more educational content a few years ago. Hey, what are some tips if you're about to be, on talent video and you've never done it before? What's the production process like? Those types of things. And I remember I was talking to somebody who did their own video content in the marketing side, digital marketing. And I said to them, man, it wasn't even imposter syndrome. It was more like, I feel like I'm just saying obvious things, right? And I imagine as the awkward networker, you probably at some time or at some point looked and went like, isn't this stuff obvious, right? And what he said to me was really valuable, because he said, first of all, it's not, because you are in your sphere and your universe of the things that matter to you and that you've been really focusing on and honing for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and they're in their sphere. So you do have something important to share. But most importantly, even if you're recording, and for video world, the same type of video, the same educational content as somebody else, the way you're saying it, right? Your approach, for the same reason that you have your own clients that you've segmented, is the reason that there's going to be an audience out there for you. You don't need everybody, right? You're not, and I think this is really helpful entrepreneurially in business. You're not going to get all the clients. They're not going to be all yours, right? You're not going to be the Amazon of awkward networking. Maybe you will be, but right, you're going to get a niche of clients that connect with you the way you say it, the way you describe it, even if it's the same words. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Right.
And I think that the same is true across industry, right? So, I think that for me, I've used that as an opportunity to tell people, hey, don't be afraid to go start creating video content, and don't be afraid to go start sharing your message and your content, because that there's 5 other people that say effectively the same thing, but people are connecting with you because of how you say it and how you bring it to the fold.
Exactly.
And I think the same thing is true for,
And I appreciate you saying that. And that's the thing that I love that you brought that up, because that is one of the things that I've noticed a lot. And introspectively, I've thought about this quite a bit too. I'm like, am I saying anything unique? When I come to the conclusion, I always use this example. I'm like, right now, there's some aeronautic engineer, top of his field, like working on some jet propulsion thing I don't even know, right? What he didn't do, he's the top of his field. He's everyone looks at him and bows down. But what he didn't do was invent engineering. He's not a Wright brother. He didn't invent flying. Like he didn't. Yes, there's occasional a prodigy in every industry. That's just like, how in the world? But by and large, people were just learning based on, it's all been said. We didn't make any of the tools. He didn't make any of them. He's just using other people's stuff, but he's doing it at the high level. So I tell people all the time, I'm like, just because it's all been said, 5 times out of 10, when I do a presentation, someone goes, that one slide, I think I saw like a Dale Carnegie thing, like because it's all been said. I know
Because these are universal
'Cause
principles.
they're-
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like yes, some I learned on the fly, but and it's not everything is so unique, and I'm not
Right.
creating molecules and formulas here. It's been said, but I'm doing it a little bit differently. And I say that for everybody. And it's like if you have something that you find that you think is unique and you talk about it or you do it and it brings you a lot of joy, people are going to feel that, they're going to see it,
Yeah.
and they're going to want to be around it, and they're going to actually pay you for it.
I love that. I think that's a great place to, I'm not going to say end, but to pause, as there hopefully will be more. Sean, I think that there's so much great information that came out of this. I think we started this with me saying, just have one fact, and I think if people were taking notes, they got at least like 3.5 or 4, probably.
Oh my God.
So,
The final tally.
where do people find you if they want to work with you?
Yeah. So the easiest way is at sellbyhand.com or awkwardnetworker.com. I have 2 brands, of course. But really, I would say that the top platforms, LinkedIn, connect with me, Sean Hand. And I have a ton of video content, and which I'll be doing more of.
Nice.
And just a ton of articles. I have the Awkward Networker newsletter as well on LinkedIn, which has a decent amount of subscribers at this point. So I'm constantly putting out new content, and look forward to connecting with anybody that wants to connect.
And be ready out in the world. You bump into Sean to connect awkwardly. I've been.
I'll have my what's new. I'll be ready.
Have a what's new. Look out for his what's new, and let us know. Comment below what Sean's what's new was. Actually, that's a great idea. Comment below on what your what's new
what's
is.
new?
Yeah,
I
share some what's news. We'll share our what's news. You got something.
Get a little homework.
Something new.
Got all this content. Do a little homework.
Get on it. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, man.